Thank you, Ian. Welcome. Good morning. Good morning to our friends on Zoom also. My name is Stephanie Rains, and my pronouns are she, her. I am the celebrant, and we've had people say, "What's that?" And it's the person who supports the creation of the services on Sunday. But our worship leader is our minister, Sonny McMillan, this morning. I want to bring your attention to a few announcements in the order of service. One is related to the midweek update. Doug Branson's been doing an amazing job of working on communication so that, so that people get the information that they need or want. So, is there anybody still having trouble getting their midweek update? Okay, if that's true, take a look at the order of service. There are a couple tips in there, and Doug's willing to work with you individually to make it work. I know, that's amazing. And the other announcement in the order of service that I want you to pay attention to is that we have our monthly Taizé service tomorrow here at 7 p.m. It's also a hybrid service, so if getting out in the cold and dark is not that appealing, you can come on Zoom. But we are having really good attendance, and it's a lovely service that's very meditative. And candles are so lovely this time of year when it's getting dark so early. That's at 7 here in the sanctuary. On a day where the service theme is wonder and awe, it seems appropriate to acknowledge the amazing land that we live on. We are residing on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Lummi people. The Lummi people are the original inhabitants of Washington's northernmost coast and southern British Columbia. They lived in villages throughout this territory and continue to have an ongoing relationship with these lands. Since time immemorial, they have celebrated life on their land, on the waterways, and on the traditional and unceded lands of their people to perpetuate their way of life. Many of us were here Friday night to celebrate that, and the music was lovely and the storytelling. And I don't know if Beth is here, but I wanted to, there she is. I wanted to do a shout out for her organization of that. That was part of Native American Heritage Month. Please join in taking a moment of silence now as we honor their ancestors and as we acknowledge the past, present, and future Lummi people as the original inhabitants of this land. Thank you. As we settle into being here this morning, let's feel our feet on the floor, take a slow, deep breath, and welcome this time of being present while we listen to this piece that Ian will play for us.
Good morning. My name is Sunny. My pronouns are she and her. In 2019, Dr. Dacher Keltner lost his beloved younger brother, Rolf, to colon cancer at age 55. Dacher and Rolf were about as close as any two brothers could be. Born just a year apart, they shared a childhood in LA, skateboarding around their Laurel Canyon neighborhood. As teenagers, they roamed the foothills of the Sierras together. As adults, they served as each other's best man in their respective weddings. Each became a teacher, and later a father to daughters. Following Rolf's death, Dacher describes returning to his life with a Rolf-sized hole in it. Of the grief that followed, he writes, "I would regularly jolt awake before dawn, gasping. My body ran hot. I ached physically. I dreamed dreams unlike anything I'd experienced before. I saw Rolf's chemo-exhausted eyes in the spiraling bark of a redwood tree. I heard his voice in the rustling of leaves, his sigh in the wind. On 2 occasions, I was so convinced I had seen him that I followed strangers whose shoulders, foreheads, freckles, and jaw lines looked like his." Then, in the depth of his grief, a loud voice called out to him. It said, "Find awe." That might sound like a strange command for most, but not Dacher Keltner, because Dacher Keltner is a professor of psychology at the University of California, Berkeley, and the faculty director of the UC Berkeley's Greater Good Science Center. He is a renowned expert in the science of human emotion who has been teaching happiness for over 20 years. And he is the author of a 2023 book we'll be exploring today called Awe, the New Science of Everyday Wonder and How It Can Transform Your Life. Through laboratory studies and empirical evidence, Dacher had, quote, "seen how much health and well-being we gain by being amazed at things outside of ourselves, by finding awe." And so, following his brother's death, Dacher listened to the voice that said, "Find awe." As he describes it, knowing of awe's many benefits and that we can find it all around us, I went in search of awe. I took a moment each day to be open to the awe-inspiring around me. I sought out places of importance in the history of awe. I engaged in open-ended conversations with people I consider awe pioneers. I immersed myself as a newcomer in various wonders of life. These explorations led to personal experiences, memories, dreams, insights, all that helped me make sense of losing my brother. They brought me to the conviction that awe is almost always nearby and is a pathway to healing and growth in the face of the losses and traumas that are a part of life. So drawing from Dacher Keltner's work today, we are going to make our own exploration of awe because we are officially in the holiday season. For some, this is a time of hustle and bustle, community and warmth. And for others, this season is colder and lonelier. Tomorrow is World AIDS Day, for example, and so the holidays can be a reminder of what has been lost, or perhaps what was never had. For all, however, remember Keltner's words, awe is almost always nearby, and it can be a pathway to joy and meaning, health and healing. As the days grow shorter and darkness arrives sooner, we are given an opportunity to turn inward, to be more reflective and contemplative. In many ways, this time of year puts awe even closer within reach, which is why we're exploring it today. So as we make the final turn toward the new year, let's take this opportunity to go in search of awe. Not surprisingly, Keltner's research has revealed music as one of the 8 primary places where we humans find awe. And so, with intentions of making this service both embodied and experiential, we will do a little more singing than usual. Please rise in body or spirit as Carrie leads us in our opening hymn, 389, Gathered Here.
And this is one of those songs where you may not need to look at your book. A lot of you already know this. We're going to sing it first a couple times all together, and then we're going to sing it twice as a 4-part round. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. And I'll just kind of lead you in, and just keep on going, and we'll do the awe-filled experience of making music together. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, 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 gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Spirit, draw near. Beautiful, thank you.
Mary Oliver's poetry is one of our sacred texts as Unitarians. And she was my introduction to poetry and began my love affair with it. So it wasn't hard to find a poem of hers for today's service. As Sunny lights the chalice, a symbol of our faith, here is Mary Oliver's Instructions for Living a Life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. Please join us in reciting our covenant. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service gives it life. Celebrating our diversity and joined by a quest for truth, we work for peace and honor all creation. This is our covenant. Liz Epperson is our coordinator of lifelong learning, religious education, and she has, what do you call it?
The Wonder Box.
The Wonder Box.
Okay, can I get all of our children and youth to come up here to the rug? And if any of our volunteers wanted to come up as well, you'd be welcome. Sophie, you're ready, aren't you? Okay, hang on just a minute, okay? I know. Okay. Do you want to open it, Sophie? Okay, first we're going to guess, okay? We're not going to open it yet, and then we'll guess. Okay, I know it's hard to see me. I'll stand up in a little bit. Okay. Do any of you know what month it is? What month is it?
December?
Really close. And I'm glad you said December because we're going to introduce our theme for the month of December, which is hope. So you know this Wonder Box has something in it that's a clue about what we're going to talk about today that has to do with hope upstairs. So so our friend Sophie here has volunteered to open the box, but do you want to shake it first and have a guess? Okay.
It feels like there's 3 or 5 things in that box. I want to open it.
Can you hand it? Can you hand it to Sophie? Sophie's going to be my helper and open it. She's right here. Right here. This is Sophie. Okay. What is it? Don't know. Teddy, what is it?
Candles.
Awesome. Let's see. There's actually, how many are in here? There's a lot. Yeah.
3. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Do you guys want to help hand them out? Can you hand them out to some of the kids while I... Yeah, okay. So we have some candles in here. What do you think candles have to do with hope? Does anyone have an idea? Ripley, do you have any idea what the candles have to do with hope?
You have to shake it and then you have to remember what you did.
Okay, let's, anyone else? Does any of our friends over there have any idea what the candles have to do with hope? No? Okay. Okay. So we talk about hope as like a light in our hearts that helps us when we're sad or we're scared or we're lonely. So that's what this has to do with hope. And before we go upstairs, I'm going to tell you a story. Oh, you want it? Actually, you can have that, but I need this. I'm going to tell you a story about one of our UU ancestors. Did you know one of our UU ancestors actually helped invent the light bulb? So, his name was Louis Latimer. Can you guys say Louis Latimer? I want you to remember his name because we don't really talk about him, but he was very, very, very important in bringing light into the world, electricity. Okay, Ripley and Teddy, you guys want to help me out? Okay, so hold on to those candles. Okay, so Louis Latimer had lived a really hard life. His parents were enslaved, but they escaped, and they had to move around a lot to stay safe. So as you can imagine, Louis didn't have a lot of money. He didn't go to any fancy schools, and he had to teach himself a lot of things. But you know what he did have?
Light.
Yeah, light, hope, passion, curiosity, and he used all of those things to draw and tinker and dream. Do you like to draw, Sophie? Yeah. When he grew up, he worked really hard at a job where people were inventing things, and he watched and he practiced and he learned how to make these special drawings that inventors had to make so that they could make their ideas real. And he helped invent the telephone with Alexander Graham Bell. What? We had a awesome reaction here. And later, he helped make the light bulb. So, do you guys remember who made the light bulb? Who do we say made the light bulb? Anyone remember? Like they tell you in school, and he did. Who was it? Thomas Edison. Yeah. But he didn't make it alone. He had figured out how to make the bulbs light up, but they burned out too quickly. And it was Lewis Latimer who figured out a way to make them shine longer. And because of Lewis, people all over the world could have lights in their homes. And he also wrote poems, he played music, he painted, and he even helped start, guess what he helped start? A Unitarian church just like ours. So I think we should say his name one more time, and I want you all to remember when you go to school and they tell you about the light bulb, if they forget to mention Lewis Latimer, are you going to bring him up? Okay. All right, let's say it one more time. Lewis Latimer. And that is our lesson for today. Let's sing our kids up.
Mary Oliver has been an inspiration for me for many years. Her poetry points towards awe, again and again. Ross Gay's book, The Book of Delights, chronicles his commitment to practice finding and writing about delight every day for a year. It's a wonderful training manual for experiencing awe. So I've had some good teachers, and I'm pretty good at it myself, especially on a beautiful sunny day like today, when I'm already feeling grateful for the beauty around me. Recently, however, I received a cancer diagnosis and had to wait 2 weeks before the meeting with the oncologist to understand my prognosis and develop a treatment plan. It was a long 2 weeks. Though my mood fluctuated wildly, this brush with mortality gave me more than worry, more than fear. I also woke up to a heightened sense of wonder and amazement. I noticed the detail of the bird at the feeder, the antics of the squirrels balancing as they take their turn at the same feeder. I noticed the intense, warm brown color of my sweet wife's eyes. The fragrance of my last remaining sweet peas. And in the last month, I've been amazed by the color of the autumn leaves. I started tracking which trees were at their peak of color in my neighborhood and enjoyed it when I could find one more tree to celebrate that wasn't done yet. This past weekend, not this one, but the one before, I focused on a weeping Japanese maple. I've got some branches of it up here now, and it's no longer red, but it was. It was the last one in my yard, still decorated in glorious shades of red and orange. I brought a few little branches inside, put them on the table, and sat down to do my watercolor painting, inspired by all the loveliness of the leaves I'd seen all fall. These little paintings were my experiments. They're showing on the screen behind me. I didn't have a master plan, though I was using my favorite paints that are made from minerals from the earth, including mica, which sparkles and shines. I don't think that the shine shows on the slides, but the real ones have a little sparkle to them. When I finished, I had 6 little paintings that were astonishing to me. Quite unexpectedly, I had captured the awe and wonder I'd been feeling. The awe and wonder of being alive inside a body that can see and smell and hear and touch and taste. I've never felt more alive than I do these days. Last week's sermon on gratitude really moved me. I think gratitude is a wonderful gateway to awe, and vice versa. I think awe invites gratitude. Speaking on this topic today is not just a pleasant assignment. It's a wake-up call. I hope my story can inspire you to practice finding awe and wonder everywhere you look. Now that my prognosis is good and I'm not likely to die anytime soon, I hope that I too can hold on to this gratitude for being alive. In the words of Mary Oliver, this sense of being a bride married to amazement. This sense of being part of the wonder of it all. The hymn we're about to sing, For the Beauty of the Earth, is one of my wife's favorites. It would have been in her Methodist hymnal when she was growing up. I chose it this morning in part to celebrate the wonder of our long relationship and the many ways she has helped me to see the wonder in the natural world. Please rise in body or spirit, and we'll sing this beautiful hymn together. I think the words are on the screen.
For
When I attended a Taizé service for the first time, I was struck by how immersive the experience was. It was dark in the sanctuary, the only light coming from small votive candles up at the front. The hymns we sang were meditative, repetitive, calming, almost like chanting. And the watercolor artwork and photography projected on the screen added, for me at least, an additional layer of beauty and depth to the overall experience. There was a reverence to it all. There was awe. So we hope to bring a little of that flavor to our service today, and we're going to leave the screen down for the rest of the service with a piece that points toward the magic and awe of the night sky. This is another one of Stephanie's pieces. And now we will take a few meditative moments together. I invite you, if it feels safe and comfortable to do so, to close your eyes. And if you choose to leave them open, you can just have a soft focus in the middle distance. I invite you to notice the feeling of your body on the pew, the weight of it. Notice the connection of your feet to the floor, remembering that down through this floor, through the foundation of our sanctuary, is the earth that holds us throughout our human journey. I invite you to notice your breath. Sometimes when we're rushing around, feeling a little bit tense, our breath can become shallow and constricted. So let's take a moment now and notice our breath, allowing it to be restful, even, and deep, nourishing our body with the oxygen it uses all our lives. From this place of grounded awareness, I invite you to consider a question that Dacher Keltner asked participants in his studies on awe. What is an experience of awe that you have had when you encountered a vast mystery that transcends your understanding of the world? Let's take a few moments for you to recall that experience, playing it like a movie in your mind's eye, stepping back into that experience with all of your senses. What did you see? What did you hear? Was there a smell in the air? A taste in your mouth? What did you feel on your skin? I invite you to simply rest in the recollection, your experience of awe, as we take a few moments of silence together. Gently returning your attention to the present moment. You are welcome to open your eyes whenever you are ready and return to the room. In 2005, my then fiance and I joined First Unitarian Universalist Church of Austin. I've shared from this pulpit before that we found First UU of Austin when we were hunting for a religiously liberal officiant to perform our wedding. Standing in the lobby of First UU of Austin, looking at a framed poster on the wall, we read for the first time the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism, covering everything from the inherent worth and dignity of every person to the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, to respect for the interdependent web of all existence. We fell in love at first sight with Unitarian Universalism. And those 7 principles hit all the intellectual high notes we were looking for. Sitting in the pew, however, was when things got real for me. It was on one of our initial visits to First UU of Austin that we were asked to open the gray hymnal and read together number 531, The Oversoul by Ralph Waldo Emerson. I'm going to read it for you today. You're welcome to follow along if you like. The Oversoul. Let us learn the revelation of all nature and thought, that the highest dwells within us, that the sources of nature are in our own minds. As there is no screen or ceiling between our heads and the infinite heavens, so there is no bar or wall in the soul where we, the effect, cease and God, the cause, begins. I am constrained every moment to acknowledge a higher origin for the events than the will I call mine. There is a deep power in which we exist and whose beatitude is accessible to us. Every moment when the individual feels invaded by it is memorable. It comes to the lowly and simple. It comes to whosoever will put off what is foreign and proud. It comes as insight. It comes as serenity and grandeur. The soul's health consists in the fullness of its reception. Forever and ever, the influx of this better and more universal self is new and unsearchable. Within us is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. When it breaks through our intellect, it is genius. When it breathes through our will, it is virtue. When it flows through our affections, it is love. That day, back in 2005, as I read those words in unison with all the like-minded and like-hearted folks in that Austin sanctuary, I began to cry. For me, those words landed with such a spiritual truth that it was like nothing I'd ever encountered before. Chills ran down my arms, and as we finished reading and closed our hymnals, tears ran down my eyes. I had the distinct feeling of, whoa, that was powerful. I didn't have the words to articulate it at the time, but what was experiencing for me was the tears, the chills, the whoa response. What I was experiencing was what emotion researcher Dacher Keltner would come to characterize as a physiological response to awe. In 2003, not too long before I would arrive at First UU of Austin, Dacher Keltner was in another part of the country beginning his own research on awe. As Keltner describes it, an emotion revolution was underway in the scientific community. Previously, even as late as the 1980s, not so much was known scientifically about emotion, as most attention to that point had been given to the cognitive, to lofty reason. A groundbreaking paper in 1988 by renowned scholar Paul Ekman, a mentor to Dacher Keltner, would push the scientific pendulum from cognition to emotion. Neuroscientists would map the emotional brain. Soon, as Keltner describes it, emotion scientists determined that we are better served by cultivating our emotional intelligence, or EQ, rather than our IQ. Today, we are still in the midst of an age of emotion in science, one that shapes every corner of our lives. By the time I read The Oversoul for the first time, scientists had mapped the emotions of anger, disgust, fear, sadness, surprise, joy, and even the more self-conscious emotions like embarrassment, shame, and guilt. Awe, however, remained largely unknown. And it makes sense. Awe resisted definition. It was, in many ways, ineffable. And when we start talking awe, we often dip into the spiritual and the sacred phenomena that seem beyond scientific measurement. But Dacher Keltner was undeterred. With a colleague at NYU, he first set about articulating a definition of awe in 2003. He notes that at the time, not surprisingly, there were thousands of articles about fear, but just a handful about awe. So they turned their attention to the writings of mystics about their encounters with the divine. Reflecting back on his research, Keltner recalls, "We read treatments of the holy, the sublime, the supernatural, the sacred, and peak experiences that people might describe with words like flow, joy, bliss, or even enlightenment. We considered political theorists like Max Weber and their speculations about the passions of mobs whipped up by demagogues. We read anthropologists' accounts of awe in dance, music, art, and religion in faraway, remote cultures. In the end, Keltner and his colleague came up with the following definition of awe. Awe is the feeling of being in the presence of something vast that transcends your current understanding of the world. With that definition in hand, Keltner and his colleagues would spend the next 2 decades studying where we find awe, how awe manifests through our physiology, and why awe is vital to our human thriving. They cast a wide net in their studies, gathering stories and data from people in 26 different countries, from various socioeconomic and education levels, from the religious to the secular. They did come across extreme stories of awe, kind of like what you usually think about, like witnessing someone save a life, or being one among millions in a sacred pilgrimage, or being present at the birth of a child. But they also specifically set out to find what they called everyday awe through using a daily diary approach where participants found, quote, the extraordinary in the ordinary, a friend's generosity to a homeless person in the streets, the scent of a flower, looking at a leafy tree's play of light and shadow on a sidewalk, hearing a song that transported them back to a first love, binging Game of Thrones with friends. Putting all that data together, Keltner discovered we humans find awe in 8 primary places, what he calls the 8 wonders of life. These include, number 1, and this was universal, the most generating of awe, the strength, courage, and kindness of others, also called moral beauty. Number 2, collective movement and actions like dance and sports. Number 3, nature or wild awe. Number 4, music. 5, art and visual design. 6, mystical or spiritual encounters. 7, encountering life and death through being present for a birth or a final transition. And 8, big ideas or epiphanies such as philosophical insights, scientific discoveries, metaphysical ideas, and personal realizations that transform life in an instant. Keltner also found that we humans have a universal response to awe, to these 8 wonders of life. We experience tears, but not just any tears, not the tears that keep our eyes moist continuously, not the kind of tears produced in response to a physical event like getting poked in the eye. We experience tears of emotion where the gland in our eye is connected to our nervous system, specifically the vagus nerve that runs all the way from the top of the spine down through the face, the heart, the lungs, and into our gut. In response to awe, we also experience chills, not cold chills or a shudder, but that of goosebumps, that tingling sensation on the arms, the shoulders, the back, the neck, even the crown of the head. And in response to awe, we utter a vocal expression along the lines of whoa, or ah, or wow. Keltner and his colleagues were particularly struck by this finding, noting that the vocal burst of awe is the most universal sound of emotion and readily recognized by people in a remote village in the Himalayas whose residents had minimal contact with Western missionaries or expressive media from the West. Putting it all together and tracking these physiological responses all the way back through our mammalian evolution, Keltner concludes that our tears register our awareness of vast things that unite us with others. Our goosebumps accompany notions of joining with others and facing mysteries and unknowns together. Today, we may sense these laws of bodily awe when moved by a favorite musical group, or in calling out in protest with others in the streets, or in bowing our heads in contemplation. As chills and tears wash over us, we often are left wordless and wondering, appreciating what is vast and mysterious about our place in it all. But more than just leaving us wordless and wondering, however, awe has tremendous benefits for individual mental and physical health, as well as collective community benefits. And I'm just going to mention a few here. These are scattered throughout the book. Study after study demonstrated that experiencing awe decreases anxiety and depression. It increases feelings of joy, inspiration, curiosity, and optimism. It causes us to become actually more rigorous in our thought and critical thinking. It lowers disease-causing inflammation in the body, and it even brings out what Dacher Keltner calls our better angels of our nature. People experiencing awe have been shown to be more generous with their resources and time. They become kinder and more inclusive. They have even been shown to perceive political issues in a less polarized fashion. It is no wonder, then, that Keltner identifies awe as, quote, a basic human need. We are wired for it. It is no wonder, then, that the first time I read The Oversoul at First UU of Austin, I experienced awe. It was, for me, one of Keltner's 8 wonders of life. The Oversoul was that 8th one, a big idea, a spiritual truth, an epiphany that transformed my life in an instant. No wonder I teared up, I experienced chills, I felt the whoa response when I read it. But my awe at the Oversoul did something even bigger and more meaningful for me. Long after I'd left the practice of law, and I'd left my marriage, and I'd left First UU of Austin, the Oversoul remained a touchstone for me. What I read from our gray hymnal today is just an excerpt of Emerson's original, much longer essay from 1841. As I found myself adrift in a liminal space, having pushed away from one shore, not yet able to see where I would ultimately land, I would read and reread the Oversoul. It was like a security blanket. I would pull Emerson's words over me when I felt anxiety and fear at the unknown of it all. Emerson told me, reminded me, that the highest dwelled within me, that within me was the soul of the whole, that I was a part and particle of the eternal one. Although I did not realize it at the time, Emerson's words transported me to a state Dacher Keltner specifically found over and over in his studies of awe. It is a state where, quote, our individual self gives way to the boundary-dissolving sense of being part of something much larger. The scientific explanation is that awe quiets the default mode network regions of our cortex, or the part of the brain associated with a more self-centered point of view, a part of the brain very prone to self-focusing anxiety and rumination. Back then, in the messy middle of that liminal space, when I was using the Oversoul as a source of comfort, I didn't know that scientific explanation. All I knew, all I cared about, was that I felt held by something larger than myself. Awe turns down the volume on the small self, instead turning our attention outward toward that which is greater than the individual. Awe turns us toward collaboration and community, toward the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Keltner's scientific work and words tell us to go in search of awe. But here's what I think is really cool. So does our Unitarian Universalist tradition. I want to read for you all the full paragraph of our inspirations. These used to be called our sources, but as of the 2024 revisions to the Article 2 bylaws of our tradition, our sources became inspirations. And here's what it says. Direct experiences of transcending mystery and wonder are primary sources of Unitarian Universalist inspiration. These experiences open our hearts, renew our spirits, and transform our lives. We draw upon and are inspired by sacred, secular, and scientific understandings that help us make meaning and live into our values. These sources ground us and sustain us in ordinary, difficult, and joyous times. We respect the histories, contexts, and cultures in which these sources were created and are currently practiced, grateful for the experiences that move us, aware of the religious ancestries we inherit, and enlivened by the diversity which enriches our faith, we are called to ever deepen and expand our wisdom. When I read that, it sure does seem that it could be directly lifted from Dacher Keltner's book. Remember Keltner's definition of awe? The feeling of being in the presence of something vast that transcends your current understanding of the world? And our UU inspirations, the first sentence of which calls us to direct experiences of transcending mystery and wonder? Like the voice that Dacher Keltner heard following his brother's death that said, "Find awe," our UU tradition is telling us to find awe. So let's find it. Let's find the everyday awe in acts of kindness and courage, the wild awe of nature, the sublime awe of art and music, the mystical awe of spiritual experience, the mind-blowing awe of science and discovery, the ineffable awe in the portals of birth and death. Let's find awe in the big and the small. Just find awe. And now we will sing our next hymn. Please rise and body your spirit as we turn to number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning, that Carrie will lead us in.
And the words are on the screen if you don't want to look at a book.
before inviting you to give support for the life of this church, I wanted to make brief mention of the scams that are going around and encourage you to tell each other about them. We will never ask you for money or ask you to go buy a gift card for Target. Sonny won't do that, I won't do that, the board won't do that. So if you get that kind of message, please know that it's part of a scam that's going on all over the country. It's like they know that church members are particularly generous, which is terrible, to take advantage of that. So if you want to contribute to Buff electronically, there is a screen up ahead on top of me that tells you how to do that. It's also on the Buff website. But you could also put money in the basket when it comes around. So the ushers will come forward and take your monetary contributions, check or cash. And if you want to contribute to the Meyer Savat donations that have been part of our service this month, you just have to indicate that's where it's going. We do need your contributions. We always need money. But I also want to acknowledge all the ways, the awesome ways that all of you contribute to the life of this congregation. So many good things that are happening here. So we now get to listen to Ian play again while we take up this week's collection.
I realized when I sat down that the closing words I had written are sitting on the printer in my office, so I'm going to do my best to remember everything I wanted to say. As I mentioned during my sermon, one of the primary ways that we experience awe is through moral beauty, the kindness of others. Right now, there are thousands of UUs currently incarcerated, and we have an opportunity to bring them a bit of support and holiday cheer. Our Black Lives Matter team will be in the library today after the service with some materials that you can use to create some holiday greetings for these folks. And so as we leave this sacred space today and go back out into the world, may we have those direct experiences of transcending mystery and wonder. May we find awe in the big and the small. May we just find awe. And now, as we extinguish our flame today, I will affirm that we do extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now we will have our closing song, number 155, Circle Round for Freedom.